is up, everybody? Welcome back to another story time. This is going to be the finale to my school experience. Now, this doesn't mean I'll never make another school video, but I mean, this is the most I could get down for now. I mean, there's a bunch of other stories that I have about school that I didn't put in here because I think they deserve their own video. But that's besides the point. Let's just get into it. We're going to start at the 4th grade, which is the grade where literally everybody hated me. Everyone just hated me. Everyone was against me. So let's just start. Okay, so in the 4th grade, I had no one. Like, I only had like 2 friends, but even they kind of hated me, if I'm being real with you. Because, well, I can't state the reason in why everyone hated me, but it's not with something I did. It's not because of something. It's not something important, you know. It's not a reason to just absolutely allow, there's not a reason for the teacher to allow people to bully me, and there's not a reason for people to hate me, So, let's just get into it. Basically, this started in the beginning of the year. So since the beginning of the year, everyone hated me. So it led to this one kid. Now I can't say his name, so I'll just call him Josh. Josh, he was like a very small kid. He was extremely skinny, and I was a little bit chubby and taller than him. So you would think he would kind of, try to keep it at peace, because I could demolish him in like 3 seconds, which I did prove I could do. But that's later on in the story. He started mocking me. He started in class, like, because there was nothing better to do. I played with my pencil. He started mocking the way I play with my pencils. He would, like, stick his tongue out at me. He would just do all this stuff. And then when we were in the cafeteria, he would just, say stuff behind my back. Everyone would be laughing at me because they'd be looking at my direction. And one day it escalated to the point where I wanted to fight the dude. I really did. And I was like, dude, do you have a problem with me? And he was like, yeah. So that was the same day we had to go to the playground, if I'm correct. I don't know if this is the specific order, but I'm pretty sure this is the way it went. This is the first fight that I had with this kid. Now, I ended up fighting this kid like 2 or 3 times. I know, right? You would think you'd learn. So we went to the playground, and I was like, I'm not throwing the first punch, because if I do, I'm going to get expelled. I had been suspended like a lot last year, so that would carry over and they would expel me because like I'd be misbehaving too much. So I was like, I'm not throwing the first punch, because like if I do, I have more to lose than you do. So he didn't want to throw a punch, so we had to stop the fight. We couldn't fight, and I was like, dude, you didn't want to fight because like you didn't throw the first punch. I couldn't. I would have gladly taken one punch just to be able to just start the beat down. But you didn't want to. You were too scared. But by then, this little snitch, I can't blame her. She was a little kid, She was a little girl. She was scared, so she wanted the teacher. Like, they're going to fight. So the teacher came over, and we both got in trouble. So I must say, even though she had bias against me, she did get him in trouble. But I'm pretty sure it's because there was other teachers there. And it would have been like, yo, he was, he was going to fight him too. Like, why aren't you, punishing him as well? So I'm pretty sure that's the only reason he got in trouble for that one. But then a couple of weeks went by. I don't know, maybe a couple months, a couple weeks, yada yada, and I was in the cafeteria, and he started mocking me once again. He started just trying to start something with me. So, well, I went over to him and I pushed him like, yo, stop it. I'm gonna fight you if you don't stop. And this kid, so if you don't know, in this little ratchet school, I don't know if this is in other schools. I don't know if they had this form of juice, but they had apple juice, and it actually tasted pretty good. But it came in a bag that you had to poke with a stick to be able to drink. Now, a lot of these kids would just bite the tip off and it would squirt. And and they just did that. Well, he had prepared for this moment. He grabbed up the juice and squirted it in my eyes. And at this point, I was too far gone. I was like, I have to fight this kid. He had like the the apple juice in his mouth when I came up to him. Sorry for that noise. I hit my mic. I'm sorry. He was drinking the juice when I came up to him. So the second I was like, dude, if you don't stop, I'm gonna fight you. He just pulled it out of his mouth and tried to sheep shot me by just squirting it in my eyes. But since I'd been preparing for this moment, we were standing right in front of each other. So with my left arm, I grabbed his right arm. And then with my right arm, I grasped his skull because he was smaller than me, skinnier than me. So my entire palm just stuck to the side of his head. And in this school, there's two areas. The big main cafeteria, and then there was a little room that had 3 pillars to keep it up. And these pillars, the bottom, they were made out of metal. And then the top, they were made out of some concrete or something. I don't know. Pretty ratchet. But we were in the smaller area. And I never understood why. My entire life in school, I rarely went to the big area of the cafeteria. But either way, I grabbed his his head, and I had to find a place to slam it, because I was gonna slam his head. I was thinking a table, I don't know, something. And then I saw the steel beam. So I slammed this kid's head up against the, beam, and I held it there. He didn't do anything with his left arm. I think he was in shock that I would do something. So I just had him pinned up against the metal. And now, if you don't know, he had this one kid, I can't say his name, but he was a little bit bigger than me, and he was pretty chubby too. So he was strong, and I did not want to fight this kid. I didn't want to fight him. I'll admit it. I wasn't scared, but I knew that that's a fight I would lose. So he said, "Get off of him," and I did. Now, I didn't get to see his face, but I do know that I did some damage, because when we went to the principal's office, because I was gonna get suspended. I'm pretty sure I did get suspended for a couple days. I remember walking to the bathroom, right? And then when I walked back, he was leaned over on a desk, right? He was sitting down on a desk, in the sleeping position. And I don't know if this was a shadow. It could have been. It really could have been. I'm not even playing with you. But he had this entire, purplish black mark all around the area that I slammed into the pole. I'm pretty sure I bruised up his entire, right side of his face. It was all bruised, I'm pretty sure. He had a very large stripe going from his nose upwards into his scalp. Because he was he was shaved. His head he had a buzz cut, so you could see his scalp. And I did the interview and all that, and I got suspended, and I went home. But I remember 3 days later, if you don't know, I took the bus over to a daycare, the same daycare I used to go, and it held me for a while, so that it gave my parents time to go pick me up. So basically, I would go there, and I would stay there for 2 hours. They would come pick me up, boom, bam. Now, one of the girls that were there, it's a different one from the one who snitched on us, the first playground fight. It's a different one. She had curly hair, and I also hated her. Everyone hated me, so she hated me. And I remember her telling me the story and stuff, and I'm I was telling the story, and I was yeah, so I slammed his head up against the beam, and she was that didn't happen, and she was there. She was there when it happened. She saw me slam his head against there, but she just didn't want me to, she wanted to discredit me and not make me look tough in front of my, friends that I actually did have in daycare, but in the school I had no friends. So, that happened. And then with I think there was a final altercation. Oh yeah, this is the final altercation. Now, in the end of the year, these teachers, they usually rearrange the desks a lot. The desks, they rearrange them. And for this final rearrangement, she made it so that 4 desks were sit together in a group. Now, this woman hated me so much that knowing that I had a prior history with Josh, and that we didn't compat, and I was capable of fighting him and seriously hurting him, she put us together. She put the 2 of us and 2 other kids. I don't know if it was female or male, the other 2, but it was just, I just remember sitting there, right? And I sat there for 1 day. The second day I came in, and I knew I was going to have to start something, because he was really just making me mad. I remember walking in, and I'm like, dude, you're pushing my buttons. You're gonna make me do something. And the audacity of this kid. He started tapping on the desk like this. Boop, 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 boop. When I tell you, I wanted to pick up that entire desk and just throw it at him. Like, the tension was so, like, large. Because I didn't say anything at him. I was just staring at him with, like, intent to just hurt him. I was just looking at him, right, with the death stare. And, like, the other two kids, they were just looking at me. I remember now. I remember. Yeah, okay. So the two kids were, like, staring at me. And they knew I was capable of doing it because I had done it before. But no, I didn't do it because I knew I would have. I genuinely would have been expelled. But that goes to show you how much that teacher hated me. Eventually, she moved me back to my own individual desk, right? Because I got in trouble for something else. Because, you know, I was a trouble child. I got in trouble a lot. She moved me to my own private desk, and that was pretty much the end of it. Really, that's pretty much the end. Yeah. Now, that's pretty much the end of it for 4th grade. It was a really bad year for me. Also, I hope you guys like the gameplay in the background. I think you guys might actually be able to see the Plant vs. Zombie gameplay this episode, because I've been talking for a while. Now, let's continue into the 5th grade. This is the grade where I moved schools. Get this. Not once. Not twice. Not thrice. That's not... not thrice, not 4 times, but 5 times. I moved schools 5 times in 1 year. So yeah, it was a lot of moving back and forth. So let's just get into it. So this happened around the PS4 release. Now this is at the 3rd school I moved to, if I'm correct. And I remember there was these 2 little kids who pretended to be my friend, but they liked to, you know, like, once again, I was a pretty gullible child. They liked to, like, I don't know how to say it. They just liked to mess with me. So basically, I would say something in the correct way, and they would be like, no, it's just this way. Let me explain. So let's say I said a word correctly, like mine. They would be like, no, it's mine. And I'm like, mine. And that just went on, and I'm like, dude, I'm trying to say it right, and I am. But I didn't get that they were just trying to get a ruse out of me. But, you know, the PS4 released, or it already released in the 4th grade, but I really started to want to get one. I'll probably get more in depth with that, and in the if I ever do a PlayStation 3 story time about my experience with gaming consoles. But this was around the PS4 release, and everyone in my school was getting one except me. I actually got my PlayStation, let's say 2 years after, or 1 year later, or 2. And I got the Nathan Drake edition, by the way. I got the Uncharted 4 one. Oh my god, that's so cool. I'm glad I waited, but still. It has barely any gigabytes. It only has like 500 gigabytes. It's not good in system-wise, but it's very pretty. Either way, these kids, they had a PlayStation 4. And they would just troll me every day like, oh, I love playing Grand Theft Auto. Yes, we were in 5th grade and playing Grand Theft Auto. I started when I was like, what, 8 years old? Don't, you know. I was 8 years old playing Grand Theft Auto, and I liked it. It was a really good game. It still is. Well, these kids, they just like to rub it in my face that I didn't have a PlayStation 4. So that led to me really wanting a PlayStation 4. And every day I would walk in there, and it's just a new thing like, oh, Uncharted 4, which they knew I really wanted to play. They're like, oh, I can't wait to play that. And I was just sitting there with my, you know, prior Uncharted 3s on the PS3. This is just sad. I don't even blame them. I was gullible. They deserve to be able to, you know, mock me in that way. That was just stupid. I never got the hint. But you know, most of the time they weren't mocking me. This is not to make them look like all they did was just, you know, mock me to get a laugh out. They were actually We were actually friends, and most of the time they were actually pretty cool, so I can't really blame them. But that's not it for the 5th grade. When I moved to the 4th or 3rd or 2nd school, around there's this one other small kid. I know, right? Small kids just like to pick on me, I guess. And he had this hoodie on, and we had a substitute for 3 days because the teacher got sick. So for 3 days, right, I had to deal with a substitute that did not know how to deal with the situations like my other teacher did. He didn't know how to, like, every time I would tell her, he's bothering me, can you please move him? She wouldn't, because she's like, I don't know, desk positions, this and that, like, I don't want to mess up the form. And I can't blame her, she's a substitute, she's not meant to know all this stuff. So on the 3rd day, this kid had kept on bothering me. I don't even remember what it's for, I just remember that he was bothering me. So I was like, you little, and I started like chasing him to fight him. I was like done. I'm done with you. And I just started running after him. And stupidly, he had decided to wear a hoodie that day. Very dumb decision, because when I was running after him, I grabbed the hoodie and I yanked it back. Like, it was one of the hoodies that had like, it was like a jacket. It had the zipper, so it cut his neck. It cut his neck a little bit. So when I pulled it back, he just laid on the floor and didn't move. And I was like, get up. Now, before you say, I didn't cut his neck. It just choked him a little bit. He was like a little bit shocked. He was like, I thought when I tell you, I legitimately thought he was gonna die that day. I thought he was gonna die, cause like, he wasn't moving. Now, I could have started beating on him. I could have started just beating him up more. But for some reason, I gave him sympathy. I gave him mercy, which is something I did not give many people. Like, I barely gave anyone mercy. Like, if I have to fight you, you gave me a reason to do it. So, I stopped. And let's just say I got suspended, and I had to move to another school. I didn't get expelled. We just moved to another school because it was too many problems. Like, literally after this altercation, we moved in like 2 weeks to another school, which would be my 4th school. So yeah, this was the 3rd school that I moved to that year. But no, I mean, I definitely could have done some harm to that kid, and I'm glad I didn't, because it could have led to some legal trouble. Now, before you say, did your parents not punish you? They did, and I don't blame them for it. They punished me. But one of the things that, is I was a trouble child. I couldn't control myself, and what I mean by that is, obviously I could control my emotions, all that. What I couldn't control is my outbursts. Now, most of the reason I got in trouble in school is for talking out loud. But it's not just talking with other people. The reason I got in trouble for talking out loud is because I would answer the questions without raising my hand. Not even playing with you. When I was a little bit smarter, even though I failed every quiz, it was mainly because I just didn't care. I mean, like, I failed all the tests the entire year, but then I would pass the last one. Unless they were like, illegally like passing me so they didn't have to deal with me, which I doubt. I really doubt that. It's just that I didn't want to give effort, because I was like, well, I mean, I don't want to. I don't know why I didn't want to. I think it's just mainly because they wouldn't let me like answer. Like, I was like, this is too easy, I'm not gonna because if I started answering and doing the test right, I'm pretty sure I would get harder questions. And I was like, I was too smart for it. I was like, I don't, this is too easy right now. I want to kind of just take a break from it. But basically, I remember this one occasion where there was this, in 2nd grade, the teacher was asking, why do alligators bring their prey into the water? And everyone was saying, to eat him, to do this, right? And after the 3rd time, he picked another kid, I was like, oh my god. And I was like, dude, it's to drown him. And I got in trouble, and they moved me to another classroom. And I'm like, dude, come on, you please. It was just so obvious. Just give me a pass, please. But they didn't. They didn't give me a pass. I mean, it's not even that I got the questions wrong and outbursted. I got like every single question I outbursted right. Like, I was getting in trouble for getting the right answer. Sure, I wasn't doing the correct, but they should have more patience for me. Like, they never tried to, figure something out for me. They never wanted to truly, help me. But I can't blame them. They probably just wanted to, live paycheck to paycheck, not having to, have trouble students like me. But that's pretty much it, for 5th grade. Now we're moving on to 6th grade, if I'm correct. Let me check. Let me make sure. Yep. We are moving over to the 6th grade. So I have to look at my paper. But yeah, no, this was just... It was every other day that I was getting in trouble. So yeah. Let's get to it. Okay, so this is going to be 6th grade. Now in the 6th grade, this was the first year where I had to start moving classrooms. I had 8 periods. I wasn't used to it, but I did it. But that's not what the story is about. I was horrible at math, and I still am. I'm horrible at math. I just can't do math well. I always did bad in math. Now in science, I was an honors student. I literally had an honors class in science. And in history, I did pretty well, But it was in math that I truly suffered. So, most kids would get PE in, and stuff. Guess what I got? I had to have math for 2 periods. And I had to get this math teacher who in the first couple of days, he was pretty nice. He was cool, He tried to teach me, but then it got bad. I realized he had no patience. No patience. I remember this one time I asked some kid for a pencil, and he's like, "Why do I hear talking?" And I'm like, "Oh, I need a pencil to do this math equation real quick." And he was like, do you need me to call the principal?" And I'm like, "I just need a pencil." And it got pretty bad to the point where he started putting my desk into the hallway. He kicked me out of the classroom, didn't give me any schoolwork. He just made me sit outside of the classroom for 40 minutes and then put me back in before the period ended so that all the other teachers didn't see it. This is how bad this situation grew. He not only did that, but he also made me I was failing my classes because, oh, by the way, here comes the Plants vs. Zombies gameplay. I was failing all my classes because he didn't give me work because he was putting me outside and bringing me to other classrooms. Now, he had this one other teacher. I don't know if he taught history or English or whatever. But I do remember him putting me there. And for a week straight, I never went into his classroom. He didn't allow me. So I had to sit in this other, teacher's classroom, right? Not learning anything, failing my math class, which was probably really detrimental to me because, I was doing really bad. I mean, I had to have him for 2 periods. I couldn't afford, failing this. And he was doing it, right? And he didn't allow me to come in. So I remember one day I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm skipping. So I went and skipped 2 periods. I didn't show up to either of their classrooms. And I just didn't bother. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to let him win by making me just get bored out of my mind. And what made it worse, right, is that I had to do this every day, man. For 2 weeks or 3. I had to sit out there for about 2 hours, right? Because I had him for 2 consecutive periods and just do nothing. Of course, it gave me a lot of time to draw, but after a while, I'm like, I'm bored. I please. So I just skipped and I got in trouble. They're like, "Why were you skipping?" And I'm like, "Because you don't let me learn. You don't want me in your classroom. This guy doesn't do anything, I can't participate in anything. I'm going here for no reason because you don't want to teach me. You don't have the patience to teach me." Let's just say that a little bit after that, we left the public education system and went on to homeschooling because and I'm doing way better. I've been doing it for 3 years now, and when I tell you I prefer that over just just how horrible the public school was, I don't regret, going. That's pretty much it. This guy was an absolute I hated him. I tell you, if I could have fought him, I would have fought him too. I would have happily fought him. He was just annoying. He was a horrible teacher. He was a horrible teacher. He had no patience. And I feel as though he was very sad in life. I feel like, he's like one of those teachers that were in a sad marriage. Like he's on his 3rd divorce or something like that. She took the kids. He was horrible. He's one of those dudes that I'm sure just became a teacher for the paycheck. Like they weren't even interested in teaching. It was just the opportunity they had in front of them, that or being homeless. I'm convinced of it. That dude he was not a teacher. He just put me out into the hallway, like not giving me a second chance even after a week. You know what it is to put a kid out for 1 week? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? That's just stupid. But let's move on to another 6th grade story. Now this one's gonna be about my last public school fight. This is the last fight I've ever fought. So let's get to it. So I was in music class, right? And the music teacher was she also had no patience. That's one of the periods I forgot to mention. Her and the math teacher were just horrible. Like the science teacher, she was super nice, and I appreciate that. And she was way nicer than I deserved. Like I definitely deserved a little bit harsher punishment. I admit. She had so much patience for me, and I appreciate that so much. Same with the history teacher. She was also great. They were both amazing. They were good teachers. But this music teacher, no patience. Now this was before I got into playing piano. I actually kind of want to play piano now. I really do. I'm getting lessons. I'm like playing songs. I'm trying to learn stuff. And well, I talked in her class because at the time I found music boring. And I was talking with this one kid who was a friend of mine. I met him in the 5th grade in my last school that I moved to, and he was cool, and he went to this school, so we got along. So I was talking, and, we had an issue. But, my parents came in, the principal came in, and we, resolved it in the end. And for the next week, she was, she had more patience with me. She was nicer, so, I'll give her that. She tried to change. But there's this other fat kid. And he was pretty chubby, and he had curly hair, and he was a little bit Latin, He had a little bit of black in him, and he was a little bit, like, Latin, I guess. He was light-skinned, And, we didn't really have a problem, but one day, it was like, dude, I bet if we fought, like, I would beat you. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't. Right? And we started beefing, just, like, butting heads. We were, like, we were just, like, talking tough. Like, I could definitely beat you up. Which I could. I'm confident I could beat him up now. Let's just say I lost this fight, by the way. I lost this fight at the time, and I'm going to explain why. And he eventually said, I could beat you, whatever you say, man. So we went out to the hallway once the period ended, right? And he bumped into me on purpose. I could see it. And he like, it nudged me the wrong way. So I dropped my stuff, and I'm like, yo, you want to fight? And he dropped his stuff, and he was like, let's fight then, let's fight. He was looking for that fight. He was definitely looking for it. Because he had no reason to bump into my books. He wanted to fight me. So I'm like, then let's fight. And I put myself in my normal fighting position, right fist near the face, and, just the boxing position. And this kid, he, like, formed his arms together and, like, put it up against his head. And then he, like, nudged down to also cover his stomach. He was fighting, what I'm trying to say is he's fighting like a girl. He was so scared of getting hit that it took me by surprise, right? And then he threw a punch, and it landed on my head. It hit me on the head. So what he did, right, is he took one arm out, still having the other one on his face and stomach, and then he over, like, he threw it over me and hit me on the head, and then hit me in the stomach. And of course the teachers were outside because they were, you know, like, the class were dismissed, so they stood by the doorway to see us walk out to our next period. So they immediately stepped in, and I'm like, oh my god, bro, are you serious? Like, I'm not fighting you. So everyone took it as though I lost, and I did lose because he threw 2 punches and I didn't throw 1. So I went over to the music teacher. He went over to the other music teacher, who was way better, by the way. That dude was a way better music teacher than the one I had. I went over to her and I'm like, yo, I got beat up. I need to go to the principal. You got a student to take me. And we went and we got all that resolved. And for the last 3 weeks that I was in school, I remember wanting to fight him so badly to show that I wasn't, like, weak, because I wasn't. I just didn't have a good opportunity to be able to fight him. And this was before I started doing judo, because now I know a little bit of judo. I know a couple of judo techniques. I'm sure that if I knew a little bit of judo at the time, I could have beat him up then. I could have definitely beat him up now easily. But, like, there was nothing I could do. He didn't give me a chance to hit him. He was too scared. But, you know, I couldn't fight him because one of my rules is I don't fight you if you don't give me a reason. He never messed with me again. He never wanted to. He never had a reason to want to fight me. So I was like, whatever, sure, I'll let you get away with it. And that's the only fight that I ever lost when I went to school. It's the only one. So that's pretty much going to be the end of this story time. That's pretty much the end of my middle school, you know, public middle school career. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. Have a good rest of your day, I guess. Bye.